So I'm going to talk about how to make an R Shiny app. So an R Shiny app is essentially a web app that you can create entirely through R, which is really cool because usually to make a web app, you need web development skills. You need to know CSS, JavaScript, HTML. It's usually quite a bit more challenging. But Shiny is essentially an R package that allows you to make simple or even more complex apps just using an R script. And here's just the Shiny website with some examples. There's also there's an R Shiny app competition every year, so you can sort of see examples of like how creative people have gotten with Shiny apps. People have made like games like this using R Shiny, so it's sort of taking off. And I would say the most common use people have for making Shiny apps is people use it to show off their data or to sort of make dashboards of like data from a study they've run and make it interactive. But you can also use Shiny apps to run experiments or collect data from participants. There are ways to store data within a Shiny app. You can also connect your Shiny app to the Twitter API, which if I have time, I'll show you a little bit of how to do that. But yeah, basically, I'm just going to show you how to make a very simple Shiny app. So this is essentially how you do it. So you start by going into RStudio, and then you open a new file, and you'll go down to Shiny Web App. And my really cool app, I have to create a name that I haven't created before. So yeah, so essentially, when you do that, it will create an app.r file, and it will give you sort of this template of what a Shiny app is. And so a Shiny app consists of two parts. It has the UI right here, which is the user interface. So that's sort of the front end of what the user deals with. And then it has the server. So the server is what's going on the back end. It's sort of processing all of the functions. So the default Shiny app they show you, I'll just run their default app, is essentially you can plot this interactive histogram and you can adjust the number of bins in the histogram. So that's their like default of what they give you. And you can essentially like adjust this default to create your own app. So I'm going to go through and adjust a few parts and sort of show you like how you can set up your own app. So I want to set up an app that connects to the Twitter API, as I've talked about. So I'm going to call this my Twitter app. And so you just change the title by essentially changing this area that says title panel in the UI. And then you can add functions from the R Shiny package, where you can sort of enter places where users can enter their input. So I want to enter a text input. So if you go to like the Shiny package, it will give you all this documentation of various functions you can use in Shiny. So text input. So there's the text input function. So yeah, I want to enter a text input. And I'm going to call this search tweets. It's going to have the label search tweets. And then the third part, you can just keep empty. And then I think you need a comma after that. So let's just run that to show what I did. Let's see, it might have an error. So here I have a working version of the app in case I have errors. So, okay. So I'm supposed to enter this below here in this area where it says sidebar panel. So let's try that this time. So yeah, and now you see I have this little box where I can like enter, yeah, I can enter a Twitter handle. So if I want to enter Joe Biden's Twitter handle, I'll enter that there. Then another thing you can do is you can create a button that someone clicks on. So this is called an action button. Um, and we'll say search. Its label will be click here to get tweets. Let's check my finish app to see if I need anything else. Nope. Yeah, and then let's delete this slider input that they gave us. So yeah, cool. I have an error because I deleted some of their code, but you see I added a basic input section and a button. So that's everything we really need on the UI side of the Twitter app. So now let's go to the server side of the Twitter app. So sort of the back end of what's happening. We'll get rid of everything here. So this is what they had going on in the output of like building the histograms. This place that says main panel is what is sort of happening on the main panel of the app. So that's where it sort of gets this function and it plots the histogram. Okay, so I'm going to skip a few steps here for like the sake of time and everything. But on the server side of the app, you can essentially create something called reactive functions. So these are functions that react to the input that you're entering. So here is a reactive function I wrote that uses the Twitter API, which I'm not going to go into detail of how the Twitter API works, but you can essentially use this package rtweet, you can get API credentials, and then you can get someone's Twitter handle. And it's cool because to connect to Twitter through a Shiny app, because that gives you a lot more functionality. So this function, essentially, it gets someone's timeline using the rtweet function search tweets, and it will get all their tweets and it will sort them by the most number of retweets. So that's basically what the app does. So it computes this function. Okay, so once you've computed this function, you want to create a reactable, I think it's called like a reactable element. So this will present a table showing someone's most retweeted tweets. So, okay. One thing you also want to do is when someone clicks on the button search, you want to react to that. So there's this function called observe event. You can observe when they've clicked the button search. So we'll say input.search, which is up here, search. And then in response to pressing input.search, it will give you this output. So again, I'm going to copy and paste a little just for the sake of time. So I'm going to copy and paste two output items. So this says output.text, and it says the Twitter handle that you searched, and output.dataframe, and it will output this function that you created here, which is the Twitter timeline that you got through the package rtweet. I have something a little bit wrong in terms of how some error in terms of the commas and the brackets. It may be, oh, I think I need to close paren. This is something that always happens when you do R. You leave a paren open and then you don't close it. So yeah, and now I will click run app and we'll see if this works. So I'm going to search tweets. I'm going to search for Joe Biden. I'm going to click here to get his tweets. This will take a few seconds. So we'll see if it works, or we'll see if it runs an error. Might be running an error. In which case, I will show you in case I had any discrepancies in the code, this is almost the same working app that I just created in finish form. So we'll run this one instead. We'll search tweets. So let's not do my handle. Let's do Joe Biden's handle. Click to get tweets. And here, so it says, it shows the text output I inputted that says you searched Joe Biden, and it shows all of his tweets sorted by the most retweet counts. So yeah, this is something that I essentially did in like 59 lines of code. So essentially, I just wanted to show that an R-Shiny app can be pretty easy and quick to make. You might not have followed every step, but I can send my code and you can follow along with sort of the documentation through Shiny. And once you have sort of the basic functionality of a Shiny app like this, you can add in lots of customization. Like you can add in things to make your app look pretty. You can add in backend data storage. There are just lots of things that you can do with this. So I think Shiny apps have a lot of potential, both to make apps to show off your data and also to, yeah, you can run experiments with them as well. So yeah, anyway.